we should have clarified.
Hey, we're alive.
All right, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this regular board meeting, the Southwest New Brunswick Service Commission to order. We have a quorum here this evening. Before we get started, I would like to acknowledge the passing of Heather Hatt today. She was a longtime board member, started with the RSC back in 2014, was involved in the recreation committee and was just a very steady supporter. So I didn't know her as well as a lot of the other people around the table, but I certainly appreciated, the year that I did spend on the board with her. So maybe we can just start with a moment of silence and then proceed with the rest of the meeting. Okay. With that, just ask if anybody has a declaration of conflict of interest. Hearing none, I'll ask about adoption of the agenda. Be looking for a minute.
I'll second.
Okay. Motion seconded. Any questions? All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried. We have the minutes of the board meeting of April 25th that were circulated.
I will do it. Adopt the minutes of the April 25th, 2024 meeting, board meeting.
I'll second that motion.
Motion and seconder, all those in favor?
Aye.
Reminded? Motion carried. Business arising from previous meetings. Having none on the agenda, we'll move on to new business. And I'm going to turn this over to Mayor Craig because he has a motion that's here on the agenda. If you want to talk about this a little bit. And then
I'll read the motion. Past month. The motion is with regional waste collection feasibility study. I move that the Southwest New Brunswick Service Commission engage a qualified consultant to undertake a study to determine the feasibility of the RSC providing waste collection services to its membership as an internal program. This study shall include a detailed analysis of the capital and operating costs to sustainably provide the service, as well prepare a breakdown of the costs for each member municipality and rural district. Further, the selected consultant provides a presentation of its findings to the board prior to the commencement of the budget plan for the 2025 fiscal year. And that's the motion on it.
I'm stopping.
motion and seconded, so now we can have a discussion, questions and comments.
The only comment I make is that we one of the main reasons we have a board and the service commission is for us to be, is for our areas to be working together. And this is definitely an area that we could be working together. This is something that would affect every person in Charlotte County, and this would be a great example of all of us working together.
Any other questions or comments on the motion?
Chair, if I can interject a couple of things.
Absolutely.
So I circulated a little bit of information about this particular topic. First thing I did was check, make sure that we could, and it's actually in the regional service delivery act was a service that we can provide. And it's a named service. I would like a get a legal opinion as part of this study, just to make sure that we can move forward and how that might happen. Because of the purchasing act in Brunswick as well. So I'm going to be respectful of that. Do we need to enter into competitive bidding? My sense is that we don't. I just want to be comfortable with a legal opinion on that. Obviously, current contracts would probably have to expire before we would assume that service anyway.
I had a discussion with my management team, and they believe 100% that we do not have to, but getting a legal opinion is always good.
Yep.
I'm saying,
So I have some questions because we'll need to, as I put together something to ask the consultants, what is exactly that we're asking for? So one would be, will the whole region be participating? I would say the exception would be Grand Manan. I don't know, but Campbell could, because it could be your access by land now.
I think you'd go along great with our transportation idea, but I do have a question. When we go to decide who's gonna do can we just decide who's gonna do the study, or do we have to vote on it, like, or do we have to put that out to tender, or?
We don't have to put this one out to tender because there's not going to be enough money to cross the threshold.
Okay.
But what I will do is seek out some potential people that could do this for us.
To get the best results, yes.
The other thing is, do you need a motion to contact the lawyer for, and do you want us to make a motion with her, you can just leave that, okay, just leave it.
So I guess, yeah, you answered my question maybe already that I had here, but one was the opt-out, so. Because our contracts are already done or will be done
Right.
soon. Or finished with a huge savings stuff, so I guess I just wondered, is it gonna be in all that we have to take it if. The service we get is better or just as good, or, and also can it be our own trucks, like if we opt, because we'll be looking at that within Fundy Shores possibly, in the future, so if it's us that we have our own works department, we take over cheaper, do we still have to opt in? The region?
Well, that's my question. What is it that I'm asking the consultant to model?
Mhm.
Is it the entire region or is it going to be, an optional thing? And if it's optional, who those options may be?
I think your starting point would have to be the entire region. And then determine what the cost would be to each municipality. And then allow them to have the opportunity to opt out.
That would be correct, yeah.
Yeah.
Because the motion is to look at each individual area, and then each individual area can make their own decision of that.
It makes a difference in. It could make a difference in the end cost, though, is the only.
Just like anything else.
Yeah, so my guess on this is to cover the whole region, including Campbell, we'd probably need, 5 to 6 trucks and a crew and everything else, right? So, but if we, later on don't have parts of the region, then we didn't need those 5 or 6 trucks. And there's, there's economy of scale, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So that's one question that I'm asking. The other thing that came up, speaking with our solid waste director, we are going to be in a position where we're going to have to do something about organics. That's going to happen. 2028 is the time. That's why I sent you guys a copy of their roadmap of what's happening. This is the adopted solid waste strategy for the province. It's fairly new, last year, but so if we're going to be in a position where we have to do something about organics, we might as well set up for it now rather than try to fix it later. A common practice across Nova Scotia and certain other parts of this province, including Moncton, is they'll do garbage and organics one week, and then we'll do recycling and organics the next week. So nobody has their organics more than a week. Composting. That's fairly common, and in some places they do that with split trucks. So these trucks have a separation in the middle of them, and they're collected. Everything is in a cart. So that's more considerations down the road, but I want to know if municipalities are willing to go to that place where the requirement for your residents is your garbage goes in a cart. That also means that no more piles of garbage or put whatever you want out by the curb and assume it's going to disappear, which has been the case up until now, but I'm telling you the anomaly, and nobody does this, what we do. They might have collection days or bulk collection days. In some places, that's onerous. You guys used to go through that in McAdam. I remember it was a big problem. But what they do in Kent region, they have 6 days a year. Residents, if they have a bunch of stuff that's more than their regular collection, will call and say, I have a bunch of stuff, and they'll tell them, okay, put it up in this date. Kind of like what we do with our white goods program now. But we would just basically extend the white goods program to be bulky waste. So same thing we do with our white goods, but it could be bulky waste. You might need a boom truck or something. But on regular garbage, there might need to be a restriction there, or we're doing this with carts. And the reason you want to do it with carts is because you're using an arm on the side of the garbage truck. You might have seen these in other places. There's a significant cost difference in WorkSafe premiums if you are doing that as opposed to having somebody throw garbage on a truck. But also, if there's an expectation that every garbage stop is going to be a cart and not a giant pile of garbage, then you can plan accordingly. Part of the issue that you see now with your contracts is they have to take into account that they could, turn the corner on the road and there could be somebody moved and there's a big pile of garbage and they have to deal with it. That's part of the contract. So there's going to be some considerations down the road as we move through it of what this might look like for us.
Through your chair, is there a way that we could have our cake and eat it too? Could we have the report actually indicate apples to apples? So this is what it would look like for the current services we have today. And this should be the price based on recommendations from yourself, Hollis, and your team on where we need to be for whether it be 2028. Just because this doesn't necessarily mean we go ahead, but one of the valuable things that can come out of a report of this is at what point does it make sense for us to do it on our own? So maybe there is a savings, maybe there isn't a savings. All I know is my wards that are now part of my community just got fleeced in another deal with the service provider that was negotiated by, unfortunately, not the municipality, where less service and the prices went way up. So for St. Andrews to opt in or opt out, I'd really like to see that apples to apples, like, hey, if we were to do it the way they do it, this is what it would cost us. But then also have the enhanced of this is where we go to the future, because when you get into organics, like, I hate to say it, I'm from here, grew up, we are cavemen and women when it comes to the way that we remove our garbage, the way that we recycle. We are worst in class probably in this country right now almost.
Yep.
And I don't think that that's any way for a recommendation for our future. Did do a survey with Sir James Dent Academy, had a co-op student do it. And the thing that scares them the most about our community isn't housing, it isn't this, it's the environment. So the next generation expects us to do a little bit better. And if some of those recommendations like organics, I think we should take a leadership position in it. And I do know that does cost more, but if we have to do it by 2028, we might as well know what it costs as part of this report.
So what, we're talking just domestic garbage and waste. And so what about our commercial?
Well, we still have contractors in their region to do that.
Well, I'm talking this new version, the whatever you call it.
The RC 10 version.
Well, you want to do it every other week, but will our apartment owners buildings have to opt into this new setup?
Those are details I guess we probably have to work through. But commercial is different, and I know that in, say, Moncton, for instance, apartment buildings still deal with commercial pickup, so they don't operate the same way as your regular residential curbside. Part of the study would be what that might look like.
I mean, yeah, so it's sort of like continue, like we have recycling now, but not everyone partakes in that either.
No.
Like if people just don't use their car, they just park it and they just throw everything in there and when we pick it up.
In contrast to that is
Now you
in
gotta,
Nova Scotia, they do because they have to.
They'll leave it. They'll tag it and leave it if it's.
Yeah. Yeah, so you have to clear bags, your garbage bags are clear. If there's anything in your garbage bags that doesn't belong, like recycling or organics, they just red tag it and it stays and you're stuck with it. But it's actually the law down there, and that's why. Up here, it's not enforced.
so I guess where I'm going on this too is if I can continue is that there's a cost of enforcement.
Yep.
Right, that's where back what you said, Brad, is apples to apples and that.
Yeah.
So we have something to compare to because
You start not picking up garbage, it ends up in the woods.
And there's that too.
There's environmental concerns too on the other side of it.
But I think we do need to get to this point, obviously, to, you know, you gotta have our caves.
We are, it blows my mind whenever I drop off the end of the road gets taken away. Nowhere else I've ever lived in Canada has done that.
It's quite amazing.
And I think we're, as this fellow has read to point out, the garbage collection is being controlled by one company or two at the most, and that's not healthy. And we have to be looking out for the residents of our area. And we have to remember, if we end up doing it, we don't do it for profit. And that's one thing we'd be looking at too. That's where the savings would be. But let's let this report tell us that.
It's good on the report, but I just like the option to opt in, opt out. I just don't wanna pay for another service regionally, even if I'm paying a little bit more locally, but I'm getting maybe a better I don't know. But I just like that option there. I don't wanna pay into something again just because I have to, and then might end up paying more in the long run. I don't know. We just went through this and we got a huge savings for my community, and I just don't wanna see that go either way. My other part to this, I guess, because we do have to have a reporter, consultant, something come back to us before we even get to that. So I guess on the motion, there's no set amount or budget to that. Should that be something in there, or is there already somebody we're picking, or like, should there be, or are you just?
Yeah, I think you go to RFP and come back and with what the lowest bid is type thing. Is that the way that this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming something like this is gonna be, the estimate would be 15 to 20,000.
Ours was 17, or more than that.
Right.
I'm
That
just
gets-
wondering,
that
should
might
there
get
be
bigger, I don't-
an amendment or something to that, say, if it's over 20,000 or whatever, you come back to the board?
I think it comes back from board either way, doesn't it, to award the RFP?
Yeah,
Okay.
So either way, we'll be able to say.
If I can answer. I'll answer one of your questions. One of your questions is, get me off, Jeff. What this motion is to do a study. We're not tying ourselves down to nothing at this point, but nobody has to do anything at this point. All we're looking for is a study to give us the answers. Then each area, as a board, we would make decisions after it, but we're not making any decisions at this point. All we're doing at this point is getting the first study.
Yeah, and that's why we're reverting back that if we're getting the study, should we have the money attached to it of what it's gonna be to get the study? I just don't want it to come a couple months down, probably like $50,000, and then we're all like, well, we didn't think it was gonna be that much. And so it'd be.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Just through you, Hollis, there's the funding for this would probably come from the solid waste silo. And there's sufficient funds there to cover it.
in the process improvement bucket is what I'm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table. It's going to come back to us after the RFP for approval for the final consultant. There's money in the solid waste fund. It will include options for opting in, opting out. And have I missed anything that we've talked about? Have I captured the bulk of it? All right, anything else that we need to say on the motion? Questions or comments? All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried. Committee and staff reports.
All right, I sent out the CEO report as part of the package. Couple of things I want to point out, I'm not going to read it word for word, obviously, but in solid waste, we had a slow start. So that's what I was trying to point out with the graphics on the first page. However, this last month it has picked up. Part of that slow start, I think, was one of our partners. And fluctuate depending on the time of year and what they're doing. And that's sort of come back, so I'm hoping that's it, but we are down year over year for sure. At this point for solid waste. Planning activity you would think it would slow down at some point, but it has not, absolutely not slowed down even a little bit. You can see that from my graph, and rolling into, this is just the end of April. And no, this is up to date, but I mean, we're at 171 building permits, like. There was years we didn't do that. So. And the split across communities is very similar to what we've been seeing all along, so. We've been doing, a lot of, enforcement on dangerous and unsightly, successfully. So there's been quite a bit of that. There's been some controversy over that. Some of you will know, but, we're getting good results and we're getting them quickly. Some people sometimes get a little upset over it, but it's part of our job.
Fair and consistent, that's all we can do. And we're so.
And our planning department itself is going through, actually we're doing a study on Camp Fellow, and they're working hard with Fundy Shores at the moment on their plan, and they've been doing some work down in Eastern Charlotte as well as some bylaw stuff. And
But the rural plan that the would.
everybody's pretty busy in this office.
Is that something they'll prevent those when they're done? Like that's something we'll get a chance to look at on the Zoom, obviously.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like you're gonna be, right now is they're doing the groundwork to get it done, but as when they get the groundwork, and you're gonna see a lot more involved from the planning department. I always include the statistics for our website, and so you can see you do get a significant amount of traffic on there. Down to what I use, but interestingly, the top pages. In the past little while has been collection calendar for recycling, of course, because everyone was concerned about that. And a lot of stuff about recycling has always been traditionally our most popular source of information. So we didn't throw away all the recycling information. We certainly do a lot of other information on the recycling page as well. But we are concentrating more on the things that aren't specifically recycling, as in the paper and packaging recycling, so like household hazardous waste and their benefits of clients and scrap metal and all that kind of stuff as well. We are going to do a little bit more because we do have some money from the environmental trust fund as well. So we're going to do a little bit more photography and drone work. We have no drone, so it's something we do house at the landfill and do some new stuff here in the very near future and some new stuff. Oops. So I have to get a report on economic and workforce development, and then I'll let you guys read through that. Biggest takeaway here is the business summit that is coming up in June. It's shaping up to be a huge event. The locker rooms that was reserved is past the threshold. You know, at the Algonquin, which is I'm pretty thrilled with that. I mean, we're still 5 weeks out. There's been a lot of spaces taken for the trade show portion. There's still some spaces available. I know they're advertising for that. I know the whole team is working pretty hard on that, and we have swag bags for you tonight to take home with you from the business summit. It includes shirts and pens and different things like that. So please promote this to everybody you run into. It is going to be a big deal. There's celebrity chefs. There's everything, right? So it's going to be pretty cool.
I'm gonna be there too. So.
Well, that solves it right there.
Celebrity chefs.
Not one of Brown's on.
Still the same.
What do you say that again?
It's still a morning.
Always, he's just not one over there.
My ear got to
So in other news,
I couldn't do it.
our HR consultant has finished the preliminary report. I just got it literally a couple of days ago. I still haven't gone through the whole thing myself, and they're still working on we're doing a wage comparison study just to make sure we're fair in the market on our wages. Something we did 6 years ago, I think it was.
Yes.
Yeah. And we said that we weren't going to touch anything for 5 years, so this is time to revisit. I have some recommendations for some changes in our HR policy manual, so I will be bringing that to the board because that is something that will be pleasant. There's nothing serious there, but there's some updates like work from home policy and some things like that. To 2024. Our new board and website just launched, at least the first version of it. The second version, I'm told within a week or two, should be out there with the more interactive version. The first version looks really good. A lot of information on every region in our, or every area in our region. And there's the visitor guide itself, like the actual printed guide will be out within the next couple of weeks. I was hoping to have it by now, to be honest with you, but sometimes these things get delayed. And as you notice, we have this back in-house now, our lighthouse with the branding. So if anybody does have an event, and they want to borrow this thing,
Let you know.
please let me know.
Send the truck.
There's a big whale. I couldn't get that here because the shipping cost was astronomical, but apparently these folks are coming down in September to do a tour. They're going to drive it down. So
A real whale?
well, it's a 6 foot tall whale tail.
Oh,
Well, that's one they seen for your guys.
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, you don't want to see a whale right now.
We got some procuring, that's all. Our transition to circular materials has actually gone quite well. On our end, we built our own in-house tracking system for all of those coming in and out. We actually had a session with them yesterday, I guess it was. We go over their portal and their reporting and whatnot, and work with them again next week just to make sure that. So we track all the incoming and outgoing, you know, to make sure that, because we haven't paid for this. So.
Probably haven't seen everybody yet out to landfill that's been picked up.
No, we haven't gone through a full cycle yet, but
How's rejection going, like contamination? Any? Yeah.
no. They're not strict as you would think, especially at the beginning, but honestly, we don't have too much contamination. One of the things that we did do in our own internal system is, so when a truck comes in, we obviously weigh it and we record the license plate and where it came from, what region, that kind of thing. And then when they go down the tip, we take a picture of the load, and that goes right into that database of that scale ticket. And then when they go the way out, so we can match. So if there is a question on something, you know, we have some evidence in there. So. And we were at the Charles County Home Recreation Show. There's a lot of people there this year, and it was a pretty cool event this year. There was a lot of interesting things. I heard a lot of comments that were really good about. You know, there's like food trucks outside, the RV show outside, and the stuff inside, and pretty good variety of different vendors and things like that. So we took the advantage, we took the opportunity to do a little bit of our tourism, a little bit of promoting the business summit. But one of the things that we did was neat was I had one of the building inspectors build a deck plan. And intentionally
Yeah,
put it up wrong.
Yeah, you had to pick out everything that was wrong.
Yeah,
I didn't get them.
yeah. And so that was kind of an interactive feature, and because this is deck season.
Yeah.
So, you know, we started talking about that stuff and getting out there and do some education. And he also had a beam just showing that, you know, different construction techniques and how to do the beam part properly. So I talked to a lot of people, and it was pretty good. We've also had a present at the wholesale tourism trade show. So this is not for us or anything like that. It's for the people that actually sell the packages, and it has some success there in driving. The other thing that I sent you guys was it's an infographic that we're using to demonstrate that for if you're doing the Maritimes, Halifax, because it used to just stop at, you know, St. John. So now the idea is to include Southwest and that little tour. And that's what was used as the main driving point. And there was some success. There's just some wholesalers that picked up. And now the next point The next plan, part of that plan is to connect them with the actual operators in the region. And so she'll be doing that in the next week or two so that they can build their inventory of product that they can offer. And that's really what they're after, which is only helpful to us, so that was a worthwhile endeavor there. That is my report, Madam Chair.
Questions or comments?
Yeah, quick question on the waste. I know it's down, but it looks like based on the budget, now we're gonna get into it though, but that's kind of what you predicted anyway, right?
Yeah.
The customer, but is that really it, the major customer that's going, or are we seeing people continue to? I know it's tough economic times, but we're also seeing the average household have less, like we've seen, because.
We are, actually, the residential waste is down slightly. It's not like a huge significant amount, but I don't know if that's a good key performance indicator of economic performance or not. So people are buying less stuff, so there's less garbage.
I think it is.
It's just the hypothesis, but
Unless your recycling's up significantly, that's probably what it is.
it could be. That wouldn't account for these numbers. This is because we lost that.
That big, but if I look at your percentage of budget, it's 33% of the year, and you've got 35.9 in your revenue, so you're pretty much where you need to be there, so. It's. Despite how it's down, you expected it.
Yeah, garbage is down year over year, but it's not a big surprise or anything really like that.
Anybody else? Well, with that ominous clap, let's move on to the financial update.
I know Brad already started in on it.
Took the thunder. Yeah.
On the right side, when you see percentage of annual budget, so this is all individual, so everything, the target number there is 33%, is a third of the year. And as Brad alluded to, we're actually over our target on solid waste revenue, even though it is down. But you know, we have a fairly conservative estimate into that, just because we don't know what's going to happen.
Thanks for the percentages. I like those.
Really hard. So you'll see that some stuff gets front end loaded, like community development. We get this because it's goes by grants that come in at certain times. And some stuff isn't, but generally speaking, so the expenditures, again, it's a 33%. And it's the same thing. So tourism promotion is over budget. That's because we front end loaded a bunch of that because we just paid for this website and visitor guide and all that kind of thing. So that will even itself out over the year, there's less expenses. And it's the same thing in community development. But everything else is under. I mean, we're doing well in controlling expenses in solid waste, which is our big, cost center. Yeah, I don't know how much more you want me to get into that stuff, but there's more details on the following pages if you have questions about anything. There's nothing that I know of that actually stands out there. Really. I'd bring it to your attention if there was. But basically, there's nothing that isn't going according to plan. I'll put it that way.
Has the guy fallen out of the building so far so good?
Hmm?
So far so good, as he passed each floor? Guy jumped up. So far so good.
On a good ending.
Good.
Any questions or comments on the financial update? It's pretty quiet tonight, makes me nervous. I think we're coming up on the end of the meeting then, yes.
I would, I've been kind of holding back here a little bit, but when we started talking about food waste, that brought my ears up because I used to live down in Halifax and I lived through it. And she's quite an experience when you have to put your food waste into a bin. And suddenly you're dealing with maggots and smells and all kinds of things that go along with this. But beyond that, one of my and I'm not looking for answers tonight, but I'd like people to think about this. What is the weight cost recovery? So if we're putting food waste rather than into the black bags and it's going into a bin, and that no longer is going into the landfill, how does that affect our landfill? And we should be able to find those numbers from other regions who are currently undergoing that process. So how do we pay for that delta? And then there's a loss of earnings on the landfill, which we've mentioned, fewer tipping fees. What is the increased capital cost that's associated with doing this type of recycling on food waste? Is there big machines that we have to buy to regurgitate this food and break it down, or?
What we actually do with the organics is a question that remains to be answered. So there are a couple of initiatives around the province. I know the capital region is looking at a not a composting facility, but a food or organics digestion facility. And in order for them to make the business case for this, they would like to have our organics, Western Valleys, Northwest, like the western side of the province. So they need that kind of scale. So it could be something where we're just trucking stuff and not dealing with it. I don't know that we would have enough volume of our own residential to do anything significant with it. The cost to the landfill, keep in mind that our residential waste is only about 20% of the revenue. Everything else comes from ICI, our foreign customers and our other folks. It's only about 20%. So even if we lost half of the weight, then we'd be losing 10% overall at the landfill. Right. And don't assume that organics don't have a tipping fee.
So that's what I was kind of getting at. There's gonna be a cost in moving this other product,
Yes, there is.
or this other waste, and it'd be good to have some idea of what that's gonna be worth. The biggest problem I find is that these policies come down from the top, and they sound fine. But what you're dealing with here is a very small population spread out over a wide area. And how do you make the cost benefit analysis work so that we're not taking more money out of a person's pocket to do something that is environmentally friendly? And who's to say putting organics into a landfill is not organically friendly? So I mean, there's a number of issues there, and the biggest one for me is the cost. Now I know down in Halifax, companies or people are now starting companies up. They go around, they'll charge you $125 to clean your bin there. So there's an additional cost that people don't take into account when they're first dealing with this. So I just want to, put those thoughts out on the table so that in 2 years' time, when we come back to this to study it in more detail, that we are able to go back to our constituents and be able to give them a pretty good picture of what it's going to cost them and what is the benefit analysis on that, I guess.
Maybe we can make compost with it, sell it.
Yeah,
Not on municipal composting.
they used to try that, but then because of the contaminants that are in it,
Now,
you can't use it anything for.
down to Marion, they do something like that with seafood compost stuff and.
Yeah.
They-
If your feedstock is controlled,
Yeah,
and you know what it is, then you have but problem with municipal organics is that it isn't controlled, and a lot of times in Nova Scotia, when I was there too, a lot of people to mitigate the maggots and stuff, you get biodegradable bags that you put your stuff in, you put that in the compost, and it really did help, but they're full of microplastics, and there's nothing you would ever grow in your own food in.
You can get these dehydrators for it too, or whatever, and make it literally dust.
Yeah.
We did a project with that on Granny Ann. I think we had 50 of them, and they're really cool. I don't know that it significantly cut down on our organics waste, but it got people thinking, and it was very popular.
And you can get tabletop.
Yeah, one of the other things that happened down in Dartmouth and Halifax was people started buying carburetors. And instead of having the organic waste go into wherever, it was going down the sink. Well, now they've outlawed carburetors. You can't install one in Halifax and Dartmouth anymore. So it seems to be, it's one thing, you pass a policy. People work around it, then you pass another policy, and then people work around it. So when we're considering this 2 or 3 years down the road, let's try and figure out something that will be all encompassing so that we don't have to keep going around it all the time.
This place in Charlotte called the Innovation Barn. And basically they take the compost, they grow maggots, they feed the maggots to fish. Fish feces are, I think, very good for compost maybe or something, and they sell this premium compost out of this whole circular economy. But it's pretty, but again, they can't do it the whole city because contaminants and everything, they just have a neighborhood that they know will do it properly, so
Yes.
it's pretty neat to see the circular economy, how it's really starting to take off, but we are won't be in my lifetime here, maybe not, maybe it could be, but we're so far. There's so many hiccups, it sounds good in theory, but in real life, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, the best thing to do, I conceive with organics is anaerobic digestion, so. Putting it into basically a cement dome. And getting it to decompose quickly, so you get the gas quickly, so you can do something productive with the gas, and then whatever's left over goes back to landfill. After it's all. That really probably. The only way you can get a benefit out of it. And to be quite honest with you, our gas collection system on our landfill. Is not doing very well. We tried dewatering one of the wells, and speaking with our technicians out there and other landfills around the province, they put the solar powered pumps in the gas wells to dewater to get more gas volume. And even after doing it to 30 or 40 wells, you might get a 5% increase. It's not.
And when you take the organics out, that's gonna make it worse.
All right, you take the organics out, it isn't gonna be gas. So.
Yeah.
But the thing is. Our foreign waste doesn't have, like, it still has, like, they don't separate their organics. So we're not solving that issue at our landfill, and I can't make them. And I've expressed this to the province that if we are going to be if we're taking in, foreign waste, which we should and do, because that's what makes it affordable for us to operate this thing. It's gonna have organics. So they can't control what we put in the landfill, but they can control and collect.
On that point, in 2028, is there concern that they're going to mandate that you can't take that waste without it? And then all of a sudden, the financial model, what we have is.
So that would be impossible because it's not just residential. So we take a lot of organic waste from commercial as well. Industrial.
So you don't anticipate that happening.
And we're not the only landfill that does. So.
Any other questions?
Thanks for letting.
I'd like 50 off that, but we'll see how we're good.
If I could just say, it's not on the agenda, but I just want to make sure that everybody, since I have the live audience, the dedication of the memorial in Penfield on June the 7th, that everybody here is invited for that. It's a big celebration of the 100th anniversary of the Royal Canadian Air Force in Canada. And the Governor General of Canada will be there, and then supply over the either jets or helicopters or a combination that day. So it's 11 o'clock on June 7th in the Penfield Bridge. So I'm inviting everybody who's listening tonight to make sure that they're there.
Is that at the park, John?
I mean,
Is that at the Memorial Park there?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You bet you're right, yeah.
Did you send out an?
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, if you could send one, that would be sure. Because I'll never.
And one more thing, I want to thank the chairperson for the words about Heather Hatt tonight. As mayor recently started some deepest sympathy to Heather Hatt's family. Heather's heart was always on our community, and today a piece of the heart of her community has been lost. Jason Hatt, her son, is the battalion chief for Eastern Charlotte Fire Department out of Back Bay, and her other son Justin. I send my deepest condolences to the family tonight.
Anybody else? I think this is where we'll go to Q&A with the public. Get more attention before how it works.
So, you do it, right?
It's hard.
I don't have any, where do you get to that thing? You guys can.
All right, so upcoming meetings, we have committee of the whole, June 13th, 6 o'clock, and our next board meeting is June 27th, also at 6 o'clock here. And I think with that, yeah,
Just one last thing, so for next month's meetings, would we like to have?
I thought tonight's was gonna be in St. George, so until when I see Mall Street, I was kind of
Excited?
surprised. Oh, it doesn't matter one way.
We had no decision on it, so I
Yeah,
defaulted to here, but it doesn't have to be. And just on your comments from last time we met, and we're talking about meeting in Graham and Ann. I'd kind of like to maybe do that in July.
Is that longer season?
if we're gonna do that, can we wait till July, cause June's not good.
No, July is what I was thinking.
I get hives when I go.
What's the budget? I don't know.
We're gonna do it right on the ferry.
5 o'clock, no.
There's something to do for now, right?
The new Wi-Fi.
They have to leave at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Spotty.
today, let's talk
Let me have
about
fun.
Both areas, no?
both ferries will be on it, and so it works out a little bit better.
You guys just come stand by and I'll take you.
Pardon me?
Let's not get a stare.
Come stand by. I'll take you to the Grand Inn.
If you can't get out the island, you get lots of.
Or I'll pick you up from Maine.
Is that how you would go?
That's how I go.
I will drive you, I will drive Cape Bella with you.
Well, I mean, you're driving along, you get stuck on that here.
That'd be awesome. Hurry, bring for the meeting.
That's provided I have a boat. I'll take you.
I'm serious, I'm driving you if you're doing that.
Norris is in. Family boat.
I'm hot.
Okay, so we're still live, so before we go completely off the rails.
That's too late.
Just plug this in.
Committee of the whole, we could talk about the logistics if we want to do that. I'd suggest it probably would make more sense to do like an afternoon meeting, assuming you all aren't gonna want to spend the night on Graham and Ann, because the last ferry off is at 7 p.m. So we could do something late afternoon and that would work out, but we talk about logistics then, that's doable.
Sure.
We provide lunch.
We can probably organize a lunch, yes. All right. So with that, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
You gotta make sure they're gonna feed you. She fed Ken while he was there, but she didn't feed me when I was with her.
Talking about.